Hello, class. This is Mrs. DeLong, and I am going to do a quick review on rulers for you, okay? So that we're all on the same page when we go to make our grid. And then I'm going to show you exactly what I want you to do with your picture and how we're going to grid it, all right? So this is how we're starting. First thing to note about a ruler. Do you see this little black line here? And then there's some wood here. If you look at your plastic ruler, you will have the same thing, okay? So what ruler manufacturers do is they know that cutting it's not going to be exact all the time. So they give you this first black line to tell you this is the beginning of your inch. So that from here to this 1 inch line is exactly 1 inch, okay? So we do not start measuring from the edge of the ruler. We start measuring from the first black line. Are you with me there? Perfect. The other thing to note is that an inch is about a knuckle's width. Okay, so this is my finger, and then if I bend my finger, this knuckle width is about 1 inch. It's a little bigger, right? But that's a good check to make sure you are not using the millimeter side, okay? Millimeter side is marked with an mm for millimeter. There are 1, 2, 3, about roughly 3 millimeters per an inch. It's not an exact, it's like 2.5, you can see. Almost 2.5 exactly, but this is a completely different form of measurement. We do not want the millimeter side. If you're making a ton of tiny marks, you're noticing that's too small, okay? So we wanna be doing inch side, all right? So the first two things, we measure from the black line, not from the edge of the ruler. We're using the inch side, which doesn't always say inches on it. Mine doesn't, you can tell. So make sure that it's about, you're seeing these big numbers and not the little ones, okay? That's what we're doing. That's how we're starting with this ruler, all right? Okay, so then last thing to tell you is how to read this from inch and a half an inch. All right, do you see how all of these lines in between, so this is an inch right here, 1, and this is another inch, 2. In between, it's got all these little marks, okay? So you don't need to worry about all of these right now, but what they do is they use the length of the line to show you where you are in your inch. So the longest line is gonna be your inch mark, not on top of the 1. If you were marking on top of the number 1, you're gonna be short of the inch, about a millimeter, okay? A centimeter, sorry. See, there we go. I was talking about millimeters. This is a completely different form of measurement. In between an inch are called centimeters. So this is an inch, and all these marks, these little ones are centimeters, okay? Not millimeters, don't let me confuse you. Okay, great. I'll just erase that for right now. Okay, so back to inches. 1 inch is the mark right here. Do you see that? 1 inch is this longest line. That's where your inch mark is. Same with this one. See how the number is to the left of the line? That's just so you can read it instead of putting it here in the middle where you wouldn't be able to read it. So the 2 is referencing this longest line. That is an inch. So if you're a pattern person, if you look at things and see patterns, it's really helpful to see this longest line makes a pattern on your ruler, okay? So the middle line in between here and the quarter lines are sometimes the same length, sometimes this middle one, depending on the ruler, is a little bit longer. I like when it's a little bit longer, but that's fine. So this is your halfway point in between 2 and 3. The middle one that is the longest, that is your 50% mark. That is an inch and a half. We are gonna be marking inches and half inches, okay? Those are the only marks you need to worry about. This here is a 1/4 inch, and this here is, a 3/4 inch. So 25%, 50%, 75% of an inch. But you don't need to worry about these. We just wanna worry about inches and half inches, okay? Now this is where it gets confusing because as soon as you start marking half inches, it starts to look like maybe millimeter sizes, but just make sure you're using the inch side and you'll be okay, okay? So quick review, we are not measuring from the end of the ruler, we are measuring from this first black line. We are using the 1 inch mark here to the right of the 1, that is the 1 inch mark. and the longest line in the very center here is your 1/2 inch marks, okay? That is basic ruler 101 and what we're going to be using today.